Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Kavieski. Here. Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Shaw.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Zwart.
Here.
Alderman Stray.
Okay, we need approval for the meeting minutes for August 6, 2019. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes from August 16, 2019.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed. Comments and suggestions from citizens. If anybody has anything they'd like to say on any subject, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have several items. Licenses, a resolution exempting the city of Oconomowoc from the Waukesha County Library levy, which is something we do every year. Water utility easements, 2 of those, and release of a recorded water utility easement for Lake Country Village Phase 3. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Okay, committee reports under protection and welfare. Consider acting a resolution granting a new 2019 Reserve Class B intoxicating liquor fermented malt beverage license to Brinker Restaurant Corporation, Chili's. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Comments, questions? You want to just explain what this is for?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the current owners of Chili's Restaurant on Valley Road, ERJ Dining, is in the process of selling their business to Brinkman Restaurant Corporation. They're planning on closing on September 5th, and so far everything is in order to do that. So in order to have a liquor license, which Chili's currently operates with a Class B license, full license, the new corporation, Brinker, needed to apply for that liquor license. Upon the successful closing, Chili's, the ERJ Dining, will surrender their license, and Brinkman would then, if council grants that license, they will then be issued the license. I will find that out, obviously, on the 5th, that closing has happened, and then that'll all take place. If closing doesn't happen, I've asked that, as we've been doing in the past, that the motion has a condition upon the successful closing, that the clerk then issue that license.
Great, thank you. Questions? Go ahead.
What is the, what are they gonna call the restaurant?
Going to keep the name Chili's
So
Grill
they're-
and
all
Bar.
right, so they're part of the french fries.
Right. They've bought all of the Chili's restaurants throughout the states. I think
Ooh.
there's 100 of them,
This state?
through all the states.
Oh, okay, much
They-
better.
100
I never called
restaurants.
on that many of them, but.
Go ahead.
Do we have the condition as part of the motion? Or do we need an amendment?
It's part of the resolution.
As
Yeah,
part, okay,
It
so
is.
we're okay with it?
Yeah, we're all fine.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart. Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to utility committee, we have one item, consider act on a pole attachment license agreement between the city of Oconomowoc and Spectrum and Mid-America LLC. We need a motion to approve the license agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the license agreement.
Second.
Joe?
Before you tonight is an agreement between Charter Spectrum for attaching to poles that we have in the electric utility. This agreement was drafted by Broadman and Clark Law Firm. Attorney Riffle reviewed it. Anita Galucci crafted it. And so some of the highlights of this is it better spells out when they attach to our poles, the timeframes they have for getting the attachments moved to new poles, a new cost structure for those poles. If they attach to a pole and they don't do the proper calculations for loading, what recourses we have for charging, it's a 3-time limit above the actual attachment, and some of the repercussions of doing that. So I believe this is a complete document. Appendix A lines out the different types of attachments that we do have. The attachments occur in what we like to call the communication zone of a pole, which is about 42 inches below our lowest conductor. So it's about halfway up the poles. If they have an attachment that is just a single hole with a bolt through it, it attaches one wire, there's a cost of $14.63. If they have 2 attachments, it's $7.32, and it's 3 attachments, it's $4.88, and those attachments increase every year by 3%, which we've seen across the board with other agreements. So this is very in line with other agreements, so.
Great. Questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
I don't have a question, I have more of a comment. This has been in the works for quite a while, is that correct?
Yes, it predates me working here. I don't have the history of why the other agreement was terminated. Maybe Sarah would know. Sarah doesn't know either. Okay,
No, and I just wanted to thank you guys
Yeah.
for the amount of time you have spent trying to get this worded right.
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Lou.
Just for clarification, because there's been some questions, this agreement only deals with line connections at the pole. It doesn't deal with 5G, it doesn't deal with microcells, it doesn't deal with any of the infrastructure associated with mobile technologies. It is hardwire line connection at the pole in that area that you described.
That is correct, just wire. And that supplies cable TV to your residents and high-speed internet.
Karen?
Okay, so where it says on the background here, to allow Spectrum Mid-America to install new, that's new, but not necessarily like 5G or wireless, it's,
No. A
Hardwired,
new,
as you're
new
saying.
would be a new attachment
okay,
going into an existing subdivision where we would have a pole,
Okay.
existing pole, a new line going into there.
okay,
Has absolutely nothing to do with any wireless technology.
okay,
This is exactly what they were
Yeah.
hoping to have,
okay,
because this is fiber, it's not.
the more
not
fiber
wireless,
optic.
It's not wireless.
Yes,
Okay, but then I have another question. So the agreement goes for 10 years, commencing on the expiration of the initial term, or an additional extension of 10 years, provided the licensee is not in default under this agreement. So we're basically giving them 20 years? I'm a little
Yes,
uncomfortable
that
with
would be-
that.
yes.
Is there, can we renegotiate that down to a smaller term and then talk about reevaluating and renegotiating in the future? I don't know, I'm just kind of uncomfortable with 10 years and then another 10 years potentially.
Okay. Well, as far as I know, they've been already on your poles in this community for probably 30 years. No, not 30? Before, huh? Before you?
50 years?
Okay. For him, so
Back in
the
40s,
dinosaurs were stomping around.
I think we had electricity yet. Go ahead.
One of the things I'm pretty sure we talked about is it's only on existing poles.
That's correct.
And there's some gray area there as whether we can take a pole down.
In,
Even if we're not using it, we might need to leave it up for their sake. Is that,
no,
no, that's not true?
that's a different contract. That's
Okay.
the AT&T contract, not
Alright.
this one.
Okay, sorry.
This one specifically says we have the right, when we convert from overhead to underground, to remove their facilities and remove the pole, and they have absolutely no right to purchase that pole from us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay. But on existing poles, does that include existing residential poles as well?
Yes, if there's a wooden pole line that goes through their yard.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
Go ahead.
So if I read this right, and I'm probably not, we're giving Spectrum 20 years?
10 years the first term. If we don't have any issues with them or them with us, then they can extend it for another 10 years.
Why Spectrum?
Because they are the franchise provider in this area
And why are they
for
the,
cable TV and internet.
and why are they the franchise?
They have the franchise. It's like, why does We Energies have the electric utility around the city?
They're the
Because it's
monopoly.
their franchise.
I'm a
pay
little
us to do it.
uncomfortable giving somebody that many
It's
years.
not up to, that's not our choice.
Why is it not our
Well,
choice?
the number of years is, but the franchisee is different. That it's their territory.
Here, I'll do real quick.
Go ahead.
We're getting attachments. We're getting paid $14.63 per pole. Is that
Yes.
per year,
Yes.
per attachment? And
Correct.
how many poles do they use? Hundreds, 200?
There's 144 poles
So
that they've
that's
attached to.
basically, think about it this
About
way.
$4,000.
Yeah, it's free money coming into the city.
Yeah,
Exactly.
For a pole that's already in existence for
That's-
fiber optic
correct.
cable TV that no one's going to use. Okay.
Yeah, but, okay, so maybe I'm just off base here. I'm sorry, can I
Yeah, go
talk?
ahead.
Okay, all right. My concern is not the money that's coming into the city. My concern is the money that's leaving from the city because of the monopoly that we're giving Spectrum for the next 20 years. That's my concern.
If I could,
Go
we
ahead.
have a franchise agreement with Charter Spectrum. We receive franchise fees for that. This is their service territory. This is an offshoot of that. It's for them to provide service to our citizens at their properties. They need to be able to run the cable to those properties. And in the places that we have poles, they want to attach to our poles. So that's what the agreement is for. So they have the infrastructure, they invested in the infrastructure to provide that service to the properties. And this is, the pole attachment agreement is here to define the term of the cost that they pay to us. And then other provisions, as Joe mentioned, if we remove the poles, how does that work? And how do we play in together that way? So the franchise agreement is actually a separate matter. And this is just the facilities part of that.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's not a separate matter, because if it were a separate matter, we wouldn't have, you wouldn't have brought that up. My concern here is we're giving Spectrum the next 20 years.
Can I address just at one point that might assist you in processing this? This is only for attaching to poles. We have underground utilities all over this city, and Spectrum is all over the underground, under the ground, in the right-of-ways of the roadways, and we get nothing for that except the franchise fee that Sarah's talking about. So this is only the 144 poles. If you don't vote this in, they're not going to leave the community and not going to stop doing business here. It's just
I'm
a
not
way
saying
of-
not to vote it in, but what I'm saying here is, can't we renegotiate that and make that maybe 5 and 5 instead of 10 and 10?
It doesn't really accomplish much because it's only 144 poles. There's thousands of people they serve from an underground facility. They're not going to leave.
I don't want
if
them to
you
leave.
renegotiate it.
I just want, I want it to be a lot more fair. And I don't see how giving them 20 years,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, of carte blanche is gonna be fair to the citizens. 'Cause
Okay,
at the
then
end
I
of the
have-
day,
yeah.
at the end of the day, we may be collecting our fees, whatever those fees may be, but they're making it up in spades. And I just want to level the playing field, that's all.
Okay, then I have one more comment. They do have the franchise fee for this community, and no other cable provider can come in and provide the same service because they have the franchise fee.
In essence, what you're saying is if you deny this, there'll be a bunch of people that don't get cable TV.
Could be
Basically,
at some
yeah.
point, yeah.
If it's
I
not buried.
I don't think that.
Yeah, it is. If it's not buried, if they're in an area that doesn't have buried cable, we don't let them on the poles, they don't get TV or internet.
But who doesn't?
Okay.
They wouldn't.
I
They'd
don't-
have to go to AT&T.
Yeah.
I'm not,
AT&T's there.
I wouldn't talk about denying
the
it,
phone
but maybe
company is,
keeping
yeah.
a little bit more control for ourselves, like
Yeah.
reevaluating this in 10 years and not just giving them the extra 10 years, which gives us more
Why don't we just
control.
give them 50 years?
I guess I asked Stan, what's the common thing that you see in other communities?
Well, I mean, this is free money. You can let another cable operator on the
We're not-
pole or 4 more and get more free money. There's absolutely no downside to this.
But there's a cost to free money.
Well, here, can I,
Go ahead.
There's no cost.
Absolutely there is.
No, we're gonna have the poles up there anyway.
so
It's-
the telecommunication industry's been very odd over the years, so let me explain. I might not be saying this exactly right, but certain telecommunication companies bought into certain areas because they put in the initial infrastructure and they were able to get franchises from the Federal Communication Commission, blah, blah, blah. And they've been able to keep those franchises. So we're not keeping anybody out by agreeing to this. We're just saying we're gonna get some money off of it. There are other options. There's satellite, on other, outside the city, like by me, we get AT&T fiber optic through the phone lines. We can get high speed. I'm at 100 megabytes. I'm pretty fast. You know, I'm not on Charter. So it's really not promoting a monopoly because those agreements were in place for 50 years since the collapse of the Ma Bell.
Exactly.
So, sorry for the
And
history
it
lesson,
started-
but
it
it's,
started out as, I think, Ingersoll Cable, and it went to, I
Yeah.
still remember that, then it was something else, and I went to Charter. I mean, different companies own the company, now it's Spectrum. It's just different names on the same stuff. Go ahead, Lou.
One last thing. The number of poles that we have has been decreasing over the course of years as we continue to move to underground service, correct?
Yes, that is
So
correct.
where, as it may stand today, we have 140 some poles, that number is going to decrease over the next 10 years. So potentially, as we continue with the program. So the amount of revenue and the amount of control and the amount of all of that is changing as well as we update our service methodology. Is that a true statement?
Yes, that's a fair statement. I can think of 2 projects in the queue for the next 2 years that will eliminate another 30 poles off the list.
So we'll be down to 100.
Yeah, then we're down to 100.
100 poles. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Moving on to consider, new business, consider acting a resolution modifying the agreement for treatment of wastewater between the Town of Oconomowoc Utility District 1, Town of Oconomowoc, and the City of Oconomowoc for 4 RECs. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Kevin? Truck alarm is going off? Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. The city received a request from the town of Oconomowoc for 4 additional RECs. Those RECs are located on the Lake Drive area in the town of Oconomowoc. The RECs are being used for a condominium complex, of what the RECs are going to be needed for. Previously, in July of 2017, the council approved 15 RECs for this complex to be built. Those RECs were returned back in after 18 months of no use. The city is now, or the town is now asking to have those RECs, 4 RECs for the complex.
Thank you, Kevin. Questions? We discussed this the other day. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Staff reports?
No reports tonight.
Reports and comments from the mayor. 2 things. First, I think it was a pretty successful weekend with the Harley-Davidson celebration. Saw lots of people, lots of bikes, lots of people coming into town. I'm assuming the hotels were crowded. I was down there Sunday for a little while. It was a crowded event and a very orderly event, and I thought that was really, really nice to see. And I saw people from all over the country there. It was really nice to see. The other thing is, in 2 weeks, we have 2 very important votes coming up. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of that and make sure that, do everything they can be to be here. Any questions, concerns, comments, whatever before, contact Sarah, contact staff. I don't want to have things not answered before you get here, or if you have questions, let them get the information together so that we have all the information we can, and we'll go from there on that.
What are the 2 important votes, Mayor?
One will be on the public safety building, and the other will be on the Thackeray Trail project. They will both be on the 17th. And I think everybody has seen some of the information on the public safety building. And we just discussed the Thackeray Trail project. Reports and comments from Alderman. Go ahead.
Just one real quick one on the public safety issue. I saw just the initial memo on the cost for the interior construction. As to this request for information, if we're gonna have an objective vote on the 17th, we're gonna need more information about everything
Yep.
that was
Yep.
included, not just that, because
and-
I can't just vote on just that
No,
piece.
no, you have to know what's been spent so
Right.
far, what the estimates are,
For the
and what other
projections, right.
things, so that we have a total project cost.
We wanted to get that initial information out to you.
Okay, I appreciate
But
it.
we are working on a comprehensive analysis for
Yeah,
you.
so over the next 2 weeks, all that will be put together and you will see it all. Okay.
Okay, so that was just the interior.
It's the building.
It's the building.
It's the whole project. It's the whole,
The building.
it's what was spent to date, the rebuild inside, the parking lot, everything will be presented.
It will be, he says.
Lou?
If possible, I understand how much information that is to put together so we can see the comprehensive breakdown, but if we can get that prior to the Friday before, so we have more than just.
Yeah.
As soon as it's together.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
On 9/11, the American Legion Band has a remembrance concert at 7 o'clock at City Beach. We will never forget this 9/11. And on that day, around Fowler Lake, they play taps for all, there's like 4 different time periods for each time. A bunch of cowards decided to fly into different buildings and things like that, so that's on the 11th.
I remember that the one I was there one year was very moving to see that.
And the band got 3rd place at the National Convention 2 weeks ago in Indianapolis. I was part of it. I mean,
What were you
Part-
playing?
I was playing Finding Yingling's Beer, because you can't find it here in Wisconsin, so.
Nice Philadelphia.
No,
beer,
I was
right?
part of the color guard.
Okay.
so, yeah.
Go ahead, Lou.
A while ago, we had been working with the PD and putting together the active assailant response training for the public. Just taking this opportunity to let everybody know that is coming September 25th at the OAC. I've started to distribute flyers to local businesses and kind of trying to get the word out. So thank you to staff, thank you to the PD, to Western Lakes Fire Department, and all those who are participating in it to provide that training to our citizens.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? We have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.